I will switch gears to a topic that's not a rule proposal, but that is of really grave interest to everybody in this room, and that is CCO liability. The Commission has brought a number of cases recently against Chief Compliance Officers. Chief Compliance Officers are understandably concerned that they might have a target on their back. The employers, the firms, are concerned that they're not going to be able to attract the best and the brightest to the Chief Compliance Officer role because of the apparent increased liability. A number of commissioners have spoken out on this issue. You gave a speech, I think, last year about CCOs as gatekeepers. Would love to hear your perspective on when it might or might not be appropriate to charge a CCO in a violation.
I'll go back to sort of in general, as a commissioner, I vote on 15 to 25 enforcement cases every Thursday at 2 o'clock. So whoever you are as a commissioner, you end up seeing what I'll call the seamy underbelly of the marketplace. You're looking at Ponzi schemes and pump and dump schemes and fraud, just outright fraud, where people's money is completely gone and spent on luxury homes and trips and all kinds of things. So it's sobering. And I think at the end of the day, you can't help but try to focus on prevention and how I can stop the bad act from ever happening in the first place. Because by the time the government gets involved, it's often too late. We're bringing charges, but the money's gone. So you very much want to make sure that senior citizens' money is not gone, or a lot of these are done against affinity groups. It's just unbelievable. People are working with their own community and sort of ripping people off.
That's who they trust, right?
That's who they trust. So you get to the point is, how can I help a firm better regulate itself, better analyze its own risk, better, making sure that it is preventing fraud from happening within the firm itself. So whether that's through compliance programs or accountants or lawyers or executives, how can I help the firm itself do a better job of regulating itself? So you sort of have this initial, I want the fraud to never have happened in the first place, and then you can go along this line of the fraud has happened, what happens when someone discovers it, and what is their responsibility for letting the right people know that they've discovered the fraud, think compliance, official. And then we're further down the line, and there are lots of people or several people complicit in the fraud, and no one's reporting it, or it gets discovered by a whistleblower, which is a new type of concept for preventing fraud from happening or discovering it, all the way down here to an enforcement case, because by the time we get to the end of this line, we're very far along. So when I say gatekeeper, I really mean someone who could have made a difference if they had said, no, you can't do this. Whether that's the lawyer, the accountant, the compliance person, the CEO. So helping us think through what those responsibilities should be. That being said, I think for the most part, and you've had continuing conversations with members of the commission, members of our enforcement staff have talked about this. If you have been involved in the fraud, if you have been involved in the misallocation of resources or actively covering up the fraud, I would worry about an enforcement case. But at the end of the day, we don't actually want to discourage you from finding the fraud, reporting it yourself, fixing it at your company. That's where you should be thinking, about your role as a gatekeeper, all of you. Most of you have a fiduciary duty, in this room. And making sure that your particular firm or the funds that you're investing in are not ever getting to that point. So, at the end of the day, all of this is facts and circumstances based for me. I look at each case individually, and did people try to do the right thing? Did they self-report? Did they try to change an outcome? That makes a huge amount of difference. Bad things are going to happen, sometimes, so to some degree, it's what you do about that. That's, I think, critically important. So again, I don't have a philosophy of how we charge, who we charge, when we charge, but at the end of the day, doing the right thing as quickly as you can when something bad has happened that's sort of within your jurisdiction, I think is critically important.
Well, thank you for that, and I don't know if anyone's going to sleep better at night because of that, but we understand that it is on a case-by-case basis, but we certainly would encourage the commission to really think about the big picture of ensuring that more and more qualified folks want to be and stay chief compliance officers and compliance personnel at.
I would say, I'm going to go further, though. I think this is about regardless of compliance officials or executives or portfolio managers, your job is to make sure there's no fraud. That's one of the things that you're responsible for. So that's what we're talking about. There's not an undue burden on the compliance officer versus the portfolio manager, the investment advisor in another context. This is a basic responsibility you have when you're handling other people's money that's critically important. And I don't think there's more responsibility on the compliance official than there is on other people within the firm.
Well, thank you, and that's actually I think, fitting note to end this conversation on. It is all about protecting other people's money, and we're all fiduciaries, and that's what we're here for. And we appreciate your role in protecting investors and fostering that duty. So thank you for
You're
being
welcome,
here, chatting
and
with
have
me,
a good conference today.
Please join me in thanking Commissioner Stein.